Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, September 24th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Michigan State game in 4 days, the game against Michigan in 67 days. Today we're going to be talking about the Ohio State offense, breaking down some X's and O's with our buddy Ross Fulton, one of the X's and O's gurus at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And when we have Ross on the show, we are sponsored by Jeff Ruby's Columbus, proudly offering USDA, prime steaks, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Just visit jeffruby.com/Columbus to learn more, check out the menu, and make a reservation today. So last week, we finally figured out something we've been chasing for quite a while. Ross put in a lot of work and figured out how to get diagrammed plays on the screen and be able to show the plays for you without getting flagged and dinged by for copyright stuff. So we think we maybe have solved that problem now. Cross your fingers, everyone. We're going to give it another go today. We're also going to be doing things a little bit differently. Some of the feedback we got last week was, hey, it would be great if you guys could run the play first, then have Ross diagram it, then run it again. So we're going to try and do that, give you a chance to look at it before Ross is really talking about it in too much detail, and then diagram it up for you, and then run it again. We'll run it a little slower than live speed as well, so you get a chance to watch things develop and take a look at a couple different things as the play is sort of coming to fruition in front of you. And then, of course, you can always, if you're watching on YouTube, slide the little video line, the little video button back and forth on the timeline to be able to watch things a couple times. You can really take a look at all the different things. Our goal here is to make this as easy as possible for you to enjoy these and learn from all of these videos. So, all right, here we go. We're going to start with the offense. And Ross, this was a great day for the Ohio State offense. So I think people are going to really enjoy this. We got a whole bunch of touchdowns for people to enjoy today. We're going to start with the unbalanced 4x0 jailbreak screen. And if you're listening, this is the play we're talking about. If you're listening on the podcast app and not watching, this is the Emeka Abuka touchdown right at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I promise I don't mean to purposely make these all touchdowns, but they were some of the more interesting stuff that happened. I laughed when I saw this play live because, at the Akron game, people talked about the slow start, and they ran a very similar concept on the exact second play of that game as well, and Jeremiah Smith dropped it, but for that, it would have been a 75-yard touchdown there too. So, Chip Kelly, we've talked a lot about using RPOs, different diversity of concepts, but he also did a nice job, and you can see it here. He does a nice job creating leverage by formation. And so Ohio State, as you said, it's a 4x0 unbalanced. So it's the number 2 or second inside receiver, Jeremiah Smith, is covered up. So he's not eligible for a pass. This obviously reduces what you can do in the passing game, but it makes the defense adjust numbers wise, because you can still run screens at the college level. And so you have to cover him up still, even though he's not eligible to go downfield because he's a blocker. And so it forces the defense to adjust how are we going to play this unbalanced. And so they actually do send the tight end G Scott in motion pre-snap. And then they sell by jailbreak screen. I just mean that you're going to get all the linemen or a good chunk of them coming out to block, and the play is going to cut back inside of that. And so you're almost trying to set up like a gap blocking scheme concept, but in space. And so, in particular, Josh Fryer is going to kick out the safety to that side. You're going to then get they pull Teger Shabola, the right guard, to sell the run action and I believe to hold or get the linebackers flowing to the run action to create more space. And then you're going to get, the linemen have slightly different responsibilities. Like the center, Seth McLaughlin, is going to pull and lead as well. Donovan Jackson, the left guard, is going to not pull, but he's going to lead out on the play. Donovan Jackson is going to kind of crack back, for lack of a better term, to sort of seal off anybody coming from behind Abuka. And so, right off the bat, touchdown.
All right, so the next one is also a 4x0 formation. And what's interesting here is the first one, the play goes to the strength of the formation. Where you got all those receivers, that's where the ball goes. This one, you got all the receivers to one side of the field. The play goes to the other one. It also works out, and it is also a touchdown. This is a 4x0 mid-zone. And again, if you were listening and not watching, this is the 86-yard touchdown run by Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, exactly. And so, these kind of, again, both big explosive plays, but they also pair so well together because you see how the defense adjusts. And this is what Chip Kelly's does. And he's making the defense defend the whole width of the field. And so now get the same 4-by-0, except you have now Marshall puts 4 defenders outside the tackle box. So now you have 4 receivers to that side, but 4 defenders. And what happens, again, covered, but Marshall saw what happened as well. And so who I marked as number 1, the overhang there outside the tackle box, he's going to sit and hold water because he obviously just saw the jailbreak screen coming right by him. But because of that now, to the run side or the boundary side, Marshall's down numbers. And so because that means their boundary safety there, who I also have circled, he has to play an inside run gap, right? And so he's, in theory, your last line of defense, but he has to fill the backside A gap between McLaughlin and Chabola. And so what happens when you run mid zone, and by that I just mean that the aiming point is, inside leg of the opposite guard from the running back. So, base run play for Ohio State. That safety has to come down and fill. And so there's no one left for Judkins once he gets to the second level. And so again, well blocked. Quinshon Judkins, TreVeyon Henderson are extremely explosive, as we've seen, but they're just making the job of everyone a lot easier with formation, leverage, play design.
All right. Next one is 13 personnel super counter. 13 personnel, of course, the way you designate the skill guys. The first number, the 1, is the number of running backs on the field. The second number, the 3, is the number of tight ends on the field. And then the implied third number is the number of wide receivers. There's 5 skill guys other than the quarterback. So 13 personnel is 1 running back, 3 tight ends, and then 1 wide receiver. You don't say the number of the wide receivers, but that's the number when we say 13 personnel. So there's that. This is called super counter. And this is one, I'm down on the field. I'm looking through my camera lens and I'm just looking at the number of guys coming around lead blocking for TreVeyon Henderson. And as soon as I saw that and I saw TreVeyon Henderson scoring a touchdown, I thought, I bet this is going to be one we talk about with Ross on the show next week. This is kind of an interesting play, an interesting design here. Walk us through 13 personnel super counter.
Yeah, hat tip to Dan Casey, who's at a great X follow, X's and O's and posts all kinds of cool plays. But yeah, he titled it Super Counter. It's Super Counter, right? Because we've talked about GH counter, where you're pulling the backside guard in the off tight end, or GT, where you're pulling the guard and tackle. Here, they're actually pulling 3 guys. So you're pulling the backside guard still to kick out, but now you're leading through with 2 tight ends. And so, for all the discussion of Chip Kelly spread offense principles, he's playing around a lot with multiple tight end sets, not just 12 personnel, like we've talked about, like Ryan Days like to always use with 2 tight ends, but here 3 tight ends. So we saw that throughout this game. In particular, you could see them in the second half once the game was put away, doing some passing concepts off of this to sort of, keep defenses honest when they have 3 tight ends on the field, that they can't just expect to run some bootleg stuff. But here, you're getting what the point of having 3 tight ends out there is. So you have both guys leading. And the other thing about this play too, before we get started, is that they do it off a sprint out action. And so, one of my favorites, Space Coyote, talked about this on Twitter during the game. So you don't see that as much because we've talked about with Ohio State included, they want to run RPOs, they want to run read action. So you're not getting any of that on this play, right? But you are still faking out the defense with the sprint action. So it'd be easy to imagine you have 4 strong to the field here with 3 tight ends and TreVeyon Henderson. And so it'd be easy to imagine a sprint out pass play here, right, to flood the flat. So that you give that action, it holds the linebackers. Henderson gives that action, cuts back. It would actually, this play could have been probably blocked a little bit better by Jelani Thurman in particular in terms of his pull path. But I thought TreVeyon Henderson obviously didn't get the number of touches that Judkins got or the stats, but I thought this was probably the best I've seen him run in terms of using his vision. He had a couple great cutback here, a great cutback on his other touchdown run on the crack toss play. And so, as I said, once you get Judkins and Henderson to the second level, there's a high probability of explosive play.
So that one was an explosive play. This next one is also an explosive play. And this is another one where you've seen Chip Kelly be very, very creative, I guess is a good word, in terms of taking one play and then iterating off of that. So we've talked about crack toss on this show in the past. This one, they're going to fake crack toss and then run double slants on the backside. This is, for those watching at home, or those listening at home and not watching, this is the Jeremiah Smith touchdown. So run us through fake crack toss, double slants.
Yep. Again, so we're talking about, again, not to be a broken record here today, but a lot of discussion these first few weeks about RPOs. And as I've said, to me, this iteration of Chip Kelly is like much more relief and RPO heavy than I've ever seen from him at any of his previous tenures. But it's not everything, right? And there's certain plays it doesn't really work for. And the good thing though is he is very focused on marrying run and pass concepts together. Like we've talked about that over the years. Like the defense should not know what's coming by the initial action. Like that's how you make defenses slow, is good faking. And so here, Ohio State, we talked about crack toss last week, where you're running to the same side. The play side tackle is going to pull out and kick out the overhang defender, and you're going to get a tight end or a wide receiver, depending on the alignment. Here, it would be the tight end in the sort of nasty set where he's a couple yards off the tackle, cracking back. And so, they scored another touchdown earlier in this game on that play to Travion Henderson, right? So you show this to the defense, and you can just see this boundary safety is like, I am not letting this happen again. Like he comes flying downhill at the action. And now I will say they do not run the identical blocking scheme as they run on counter. Instead, I think they take a little bit more of a pass protection focused look. So they pull the backside guard and they block down to give yourself sort of a little protection. And Ryan Day talked about this play after the game. We haven't mentioned Will Howard yet on this show. This was, Day said this is a great sight adjustment by him because Marshall here is bringing a backside nickel blitz, and it's not picked up in this protection scheme. And so, Howard sees it, he gets the ball out quickly. But that means that the field safety has to pick up Jeremiah Smith. He does not have good leverage on that. It's not a great matchup for pretty much any safety. And then, as I said, the boundary safety's flying downhill, so he's not going to help with anything. So again, hat tip to Space Coyote again during the game, pointed out the tight end is also wide open down the seam here because that, again, boundary safety, very focused on the run, not going to be helping anything on the pass. So very well done. Like, Will Howard, again, this is where he's very good at getting the ball out and delivering it accurately, quickly. I thought that in the second half in particular, he had a couple also in more like downfield passing concepts that he did a really nice job coming off of his initial reads, working back to the backside on a couple of dig routes, one to Smith, one to Carnell Tate that Day also called out in his post game. Again, those longer developing take time, but he delivers accurate balls on that. Obviously, like the interception, I'd like to see them connect on some deep shots. I don't think that's all on Howard. I thought Smith could have run a little bit better route. And it was a really nice play by the corner, as you pointed out on Buckeye Huddle. But they tried a couple other times to hit some things downfield, and Marshall was just kind of cloud covering everything and not letting things get open down deep. But as I said, Howard off of those came back and hit a couple of these backside digs that were pretty crucial.
All right. And then the last play, this is a bunch of stuff we've talked about before, but zone insert, third level RPO glance route. Now, I know we've talked about glance routes a bunch in the past. Obviously, we've talked about RPO on just about every one of these shows we do. I don't know that we've talked about zone insert before. So let people know what that is, and then let's look at this last play.
Yeah, so I couldn't go the whole show without talking about an RPO because, as I said, it's sort of the engine of the offense to me. Okay, so zone insert just means that, we've talked about split blocking before where the Y off. By that, I just mean the tight end off the line of scrimmage blocks back across the formation to the opposite, away from the zone play to the opposite defensive end. Insert means instead of that, he's going to lead up on the play side linebacker. So similar zone blocking concept, you're just changing the launch angle. You're getting almost an isolation block from the tight end. And so again, like the thing that to me like really keeps the defense honest is when they read the backside overhang. And so here, if you're looking at this, you've got, two guys to the field. And by the overhang, I mean the one who's sort of off onto that field side over those two wide receivers. And so they run a bubble screen here over that overhang. And like, they manipulate that guy a lot. We saw it with the jailbreak screen and then the inside zone, but like consecutive plays earlier in the game, they ran an H out route, which is just like Abuka running like a 2-yard and cut out back-to-back plays off of outside zone, both 10-yard gains. So we got that covered, right? That's a second level RPO. Here, they actually do a third level RPO. And by that, I mean, he's reading. Now Will Howard is actually going to the single wide receiver side and reading the safety. Marshall mixed in some cover 4 concepts with like cover 3, like you're getting here. And so the basic concept is if like cover 3, you're getting the 3 high defenders. This is 3 buzz or 6 weak, which means the back boundary safety is coming down to help play against the run. So you get an 8-man front. And so, he's basically pulling and throwing it where that guy left on a glance route. So not a touchdown, but again, just showed like continually expanding the run pass options. And this is what makes the run game, so effective because, we've talked in the past about there are times when Ohio State just, I thought that the offensive line in previous seasons would get unfairly blamed because they just did not have the numbers. And they're just making sure that doesn't happen because you're using the second and third level read of defenders who are committing to the run.
All right. So if you are listening to this as a podcast, this is, first and foremost, a podcast, the morning show. I'm going to strongly suggest you find us on youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle and watch these plays as well. You end up learning a lot more, get a chance to really see what Ross is talking about. So go ahead and take a second, go to youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That way you get notified when we post these shows, live shows. We're going to have live interviews with Ohio State players and coaches coming up on Tuesday. We'll probably have a live instant reaction show from inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Tuesday afternoon as well. And also make sure you subscribe to us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That is where every show I tell you, Tony, Kevin, and I cover the team. Mark covers recruiting, and we have our whole team of X's and O's gurus there to make you a smarter football fan. This kind of show is an example of what we mean by that. We put these shows up there, usually let the members there have an early access to these shows as well, so you get a chance to look at them, watch the plays through, and then ask questions. You want to ask Ross, you want to ask Mikey or Devin or Justin questions about what they're talking about here. Get breakdowns on offense. We have offense specialists, we have defense specialists, we have overall specialists. You can find that all on the Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And right now, we are running a sale, $4.99 for your first month of membership. It is a great deal, great chance to check out all the stuff we have to offer there at BuckeyeHuddle.com, including all those X's and O's guys on the Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. So sign up today. Just go to BuckeyeHuddle.com. Click on subscribe today at the top of the page. Get access to that first month for just $4.99. Get access to all that great content. You get to watch all of that stuff all the way through the Oregon game and the week after the Oregon game, where I'm sure there will be plenty of stuff to talk about there as well then. So check that all out today at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And once again, thank you to our sponsors, Jeff Ruby Steakhouse, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus. Named one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus. Check out the menu and make a reservation for today. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.